Do you believe what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? We don't, because we're going to tell you all about our adventures in this episode.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust.
Welcome to the Travel FOMO podcast. I'm Jamin Houghton. I'm here with my co-host and wife, Hilarie.
Hello, guys.
We're kicking off our second season, and we're calling it Cities in the States. Last season, we took you across the pond, and this season, we're staying here on our own turf.
That's right, and we are taking you to some of our favorite cities in the U.S., including New Orleans, Chicago, San Antonio, Orlando, and, of course, we're starting off with the infamous Vegas.
Las Vegas. But before we start, take a moment to subscribe to the Travel FOMO podcast from wherever you're listening. That'll ensure that you get notified every week when the new episode drops.
That's right. Yes. Vegas, baby. Oh my gosh. I honestly cannot think of how many times that we have said that, not only in planning every trip to Vegas, and there have been a lot, but just looking forward to recording this episode. I feel like I've said that a million times. Like, Vegas,
That's
baby,
true.
Vegas, baby. We've been to Vegas 5 times together, right?
Yes.
And then we've also both been on our own as well. So we have a lot of stories to tell. And yeah, what do you think of whenever you think of Vegas?
I think the the obvious thing is the casinos.
Yeah.
I think everyone before they, or at least most people probably before they go to Vegas, they've probably seen Vegas in movies.
Yeah.
Movies like The Hangover, the Ocean's movies,
Mm-hmm.
like I think 11 and 13, they're there. 21 with Kevin Spacey. Even like more classic comedies like Swingers, stuff like that. Rain Man there's a big
Right,
Vegas
that was
part there.
yeah.
Even like way back Casino, Vegas Vacation, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So like,
Oh my gosh, so many.
yeah, like lots of movies really kind of introduce the concept of Vegas to people, but it really is kind of all about the casinos, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what you're there to see, right?
I mean, it's crazy because the casinos themselves, they are everything. They are hotels, they are shopping, they are entertainment. Everything happens in
Right.
casinos. And it makes Vegas so interesting and unique. And I mean, I just think about things like the Bellagio fountains. And then a lot of people, they know about the fountains, but they don't necessarily know that if you take the time to go into the Bellagio, they have like this amazing flower garden.
Oh, that's super cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
we go there every single time, and it's always different. And we've been
Yes.
several times at Christmas, and it is like, it's got a real wow factor at Christmas, how they use flowers. It's unbelievable to decorate. And then you've got things like Treasure Island and the Pirate Show, and which is maybe, it's seen its day probably. But then the Mirage has their volcano that explodes regularly,
Yep.
which is entertaining. If you go inside Caesar's Palace, they've got moving statues. And then, Mandalay Bay is so unique. It's got the beach,
Right. Yeah.
pool,
Yeah. It's got
which
its own
is-
vibe thing.
right? Which I've never been to, but we've looked over at it from the Cosmopolitan before and thought like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And then, New York, you've got roller coasters going in and
Right.
around.
Comes through and around. We rode that roller coaster. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And then Paris has its Eiffel Tower, and the Cosmopolitan has its chandeliers, and the Flamingo is just the Flamingo. It's like classic Vegas, right? It's exactly what you think of when you think of Vegas. And then Monte Carlo, Planet Hollywood, MGM Grand, they have their lions. There's just so much. It's but you're right. It really is focused all on the different casinos.
Right. And they're all they all have, like you said, they all have their thing that they're known for, that you want to see. And,
Yeah.
and so they're all worth going to just to see them, just to go through. Like the first time I went, that's really kind of a lot of what the trip was just going into all the different ones and seeing what there was. So
Right.
cool. Mm-hmm. And we stayed, the first time that we went together, we stayed at the Stratosphere,
Yeah.
which is kind of, it's in between like downtown old Las Vegas and like the Strip where everything kind of happens now.
Right. It's like cheap, but not convenient.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to sacrifice something.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to have to take a cab ride anywhere that you really want to go.
Right.
But
Or the Deuce.
yes, you can also ride the Deuce. That's true. We'll talk
talk
a
about
little bit about the Deuce here in a minute. But that trip, we went with Chad and Sarah.
Yeah.
Which is they're our friends that that have been friends for a long, long time. Like I've known Chad since we were little kids. You've been friends with Sarah, and they're actually how we met.
Since college, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
oh,
yeah,
they are how we met.
They are how
and
we
our
met.
trip with them to Vegas was the first trip we went on as a couple, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'd never like really traveled together until we went on that Vegas trip.
Yeah. And the Stratosphere, it's known for its like, it has kind of what is close to Seattle's Space Needle. Mm-hmm. And so you can go up in it. You can go up to the top. There's actually a restaurant up there and an observation deck and
Great views.
Right.
Really cool.
I think it's either the tallest or second tallest observation point west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
So you're way up there. You can see out, like you can see out to the mountains. You can see all of the Strip. Like it's pretty cool up there. But they also have rides up there that you can go on. And we've been up a couple times. There's like a ride that just shoots you straight up and down. There's a set of swings that you essentially an arm takes you out over the edge and you swing, and as it starts to go faster and faster, you sort of get vertical and are swinging over. We've done that. On our trip with Chad and Sarah, you guys rode I think, is it called the Insanity?
It was either that or the Big Shot. I think it was the Big Shot. And we kind of like
Right.
dangled out over the edge. And it kind of like catapults you, almost like this big arm that just kind of like drops down and you just
Right.
kind of like drop down. It was terrifying. I was glad that Chad was willing to do it because nobody else was.
Yeah, Sarah and I observed for that little part of the adventure. So that was crazy. I remember most about that, not that trip, but most about that experience of going up there was coming down. We got in the elevator and all of a sudden all the security guard is getting messages on his walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And because a security guard takes you up and down the elevator and takes a few minutes because you're going all these stories up and down. And we make it to the bottom and there's just chaos. People kind of running everywhere. And
It really was.
yeah, and we see the fire department show up. Originally, we thought there was a fire in one of the restaurants, and we found out that someone had jumped
Yeah.
off the top,
That was really
literally
sobering.
minutes after we were up there.
Yeah.
And they had actually crashed through the ceiling of the McDonald's all the way down at the ground level, which was so crazy because and at first like the rumor was swirling around that they fell off one of the rides.
Oh, that's right.
And
oh my
we were
gosh.
like, oh, we were just up there riding the rides.
Saying that out loud, like how scary would it be if you fell off this ride?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it turns out that it was a girl, and she had not fallen off one of the rides, but she had deliberately jumped. Like she had jumped over a couple of railings to like go out, which was crazy. And
Yes.
I remember thinking at the time, like, wow, this is going to be a really big, like, kind of news story, or like this is going to be a big, like, happening. But then we found out that everything just kind of went back to normal. I remember us asking a cabbie about it, and they were like, no, that it kind of happens a lot. And so and it's
was
bad
really
for
sad
business
to
to be
hear.
reported. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was bad for business, so then people don't necessarily know that it happens all the time.
Right. They don't talk about it. It just kind of like, they just sort of like clean
on.
up and then move on, like, which was really
So
crazy.
sad. We were really heavy-hearted about that too. Like, it was not the kind of thing that you expect to see happening in Vegas. Not that we saw it, but that, just the idea of something like that was just really heavy. And it sounds like the gambling obviously is a big thing
Right.
in Vegas, and sometimes gambling losses might be part of that. The heartbreak that people are feeling when they're there. And sometimes it's just the fact that they go somewhere where nobody is. But I just want to take a moment to pause and make sure people have resources, because topics like this can be really triggering for people.
Yeah.
And this is a really good moment to remind people that there are resources.
Right.
So if somebody that is listening is experiencing suicidal ideations or anything like that, we just want to make sure that they know that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number for that is 1-800-273-8255. And I'm just going to repeat that one more time.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is a really important thing before we move on, and a really important topic. 1-800-273-8255. And I have called that hotline on behalf of people I love, and I will say that they will talk you through things. They'll help, make sure that you know what resources you can point other people to, and make sure that that people know that they're loved and they're not alone. And it's kind of amazing. I just had to pause and
I think that's a really great point, in that, because Vegas does have those things, like you said, gambling, drugs, things like that people can go out, get mixed up in, get in over their heads, and then feel like they can't get out. But there's ways stuff can get fixed. It's
Nothing
not
is
too
that
far,
bad.
it's not too late. Like, there's still hope,
Right.
that can come. And it's sad to see people lose that, especially in the midst of so much celebration, or not even celebration, but just people there on vacation, people there to have fun, and then knowing that there are other people there in such a dark spot.
Right. Yeah. Still living out heartbreak, and it, that's a great point, actually, in regard to travel. People travel with baggage. You are who you are, and you take it with you wherever you go. And so, just, it's a sobering topic, but it's important to remember that, that people, the things that we have that we're struggling with as individuals, that goes with us, and traveling doesn't necessarily wipe that all away. Right.
Right.
Like, it doesn't, you kind of imagine like going on this trip and just all your problems being solved. And that's not necessarily the case. And, but there's help out there. So
yeah, absolutely. And you can use travel to, find that space to think. And sometimes it drives you to a bad place, but rather than that, like, use that space to work through.
That's good.
And when you travel, don't avoid that stuff, because it's just going to be waiting for you again. But take that time and that space to work through, and to work through those things in a positive way, to work on yourself when you have those kind of moments of being separated from what's normal in life.
That is a really good point. Really good advice. I really want to tell you about this great new thing that I found. Every time I bring it on a trip, I am so glad that I did. It saves me money, it makes life easier, and I'm better looking because of it. The only problem is, I haven't found it yet. So if your product can make our lives better, let's talk, because we want to know and we want to share. That's a hard story to follow.
Right.
But, and we have honestly been so lucky to go to Vegas for different reasons and have great experiences. So our experiences have been, fortunately, we feel really blessed that it's been just the opposite for us. And people, they go to Vegas for all different kinds of reasons, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm always hearing about a conference in Vegas.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people go to Vegas for work. Yeah.
They really do, for like these random conferences. And I mean, everyone from like videographers to lawyers to like just anything you can imagine. It's so interesting, the different industries that they all kind of circulate there in Vegas.
It's funny because I know a few people in sales that have conferences in Vegas, and they go every year, and to them it's like, oh, we gotta go, like, because they're like standing in a booth all day, and then like taking clients out for a fancy dinner and rinse repeat, and then flying back home, and it's not like
not as much fun.
Right. Yeah, they're not out enjoying it. They're working.
Right. And ironically, you and I have never been for work
No.
or for a conference.
No.
Just for fun. Which means that we have paid ourselves to go multiple times to Vegas. Like,
yes.
endlessly almost. But one of the most interesting things that we did in Vegas is, and this is not a typical reason people go to Vegas, but we were there when they shut the streets down for a marathon.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. And it was my 5th marathon, something like that.
Yep.
And I don't even know if that's true, but
that sounds right, though.
There. Yeah. And we were traveling with our friends Jeremy and Casey and Chad and Sarah again.
Yep.
And you hear about these people a lot, and you will continue to. And Jeremy Miller, there was like several of us that all got to go, so it's kind of a bigger group this time. And we were staying at Planet Hollywood. I loved staying at Planet Hollywood.
That was so cool. The rooms are really cool there.
They really were. I didn't know what to expect, but it was great. I loved it. I loved the location. I loved the shopping that was in there. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great trip.
Yeah. And I will never forget the FOMO that I had. We talk about travel FOMO and our fear of missing out. I had legit Vegas FOMO when I was laying in bed and I had to leave the club early, and you guys were having this great time at Aria, and y'all were like dancing it up and just, it was so great. And I had to go back to the room, and I was just like,
yeah, you were a little grumpy about that.
I was really grumpy. And I couldn't sleep, and the hotel itself was amazing, but you can still hear everything. And so I could hear people next door partying it up. It was like their pre-party, and I was done for the night. And so they had like music blaring, and oh my gosh, it was really rough. And then the lights of Vegas were like screaming at me from the window. I will never forget that night. And
what time did you have to get up? Do you
really
remember?
Early. I'm sure it was like 5 a.m.
Yeah, it was like super early.
Yeah, because I had to like walk to the start line because they shut down the streets, so there's you're not taking a cab anywhere, and it wouldn't have helped anyway. And had to walk to the to Mandalay Bay, to the starting line on the Strip, and get in all of the funnels of people and the corrals and stuff. And it was so nerve-wracking because like you're truly on your own. You are in a city you don't know. You are doing it by yourself. And a lot of people don't necessarily, I don't know. I think running a marathon by yourself might be one of the hardest things I've ever done. And you gotta like find it in yourself to really do it. Yeah, so I was really pretty nervous about it, and then nervous about all the drinking I'd been doing and how dehydrated I probably was. But
how helpful that would be.
Yeah, but yeah, they shut down the Strip, and this is one of the only times that they shut down the Strip, right? Because they do it for what, New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I think New Year's Eve and then the marathon.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's the only reasons that they
too much of a money-making business for them to shut this down. So it is a big deal. And this was back, I was doing the marathon when it was the Rock and Roll Marathon, and they did it in the morning instead of the evening. Now they do it in the evening, which I think is really cool. To see the lights at night and all that kind of stuff would be really cool. But by all means, also I think people would be more likely to do it because, you don't have to wake up early in Vegas.
I do wonder how many. I remember wondering because you got up so early to go, and then I got up to go like cheer you on because I knew about what time you would like be coming by Planet Hollywood. And so I was going to go out and cheer you on. And I remember getting up and thinking like, man, this is kind of early, and wondering how many people were signed up for the marathon, but were like, nah.
Right. It was a good excuse to come to Vegas,
like, well,
but I'm not going to do it.
I kind of twisted my ankle last night.
Right. Dancing. Yeah, for sure. You know, it was so interesting too because it was unlike any other experience for sure because there was, you know, you think about drive-through weddings and like these different weddings that you have in Vegas, right? Impromptu weddings. Well, they had run-through weddings. So people who were running the race could just like run up and like have somebody like, you know, marry them right then and there in front of everybody. It was so crazy. So I ran past some, you know, new husbands and wives, and you get to congratulate them along the way, and it's really fun. And then to see them along the route is so fun too and stuff. And the first half of the marathon was amazing because you're just running down the strip. It is like a huge Hollywood set. That's the only way I can describe it because the sun was coming up. It was just so picturesque. And then you've got these massive, massive buildings and you're seeing them in the daylight. And I'm used to seeing them at night, but you know, during the day, it was just so different. And there was nobody on the streets but us. It was crazy.
It was crazy to see because when I came out to cheer you on, I remember crossing a bridge and looking down the street that you're so used to be seeing just like full of traffic and it being just people.
Tons of people.
And
you took some cool photos.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah. And the second half was a lot less impressive. I'm not going to lie. I was like, I would definitely do the half marathon, but not the second half based on that route. But it's just, they had us running through like industrial areas and not even great neighborhoods. It was like parking lots. Like I remember running through a parking lot and I was like, are you serious? Like you just adding on a tenth of a mile right here? This is really bad.
Yeah. I do think that was ill planned based on what you told me about it. Like, but it does sound really cool to be able to run the whole strip because you ran the full strip like from one end all the way to the other.
Yeah, that was cool. And the crazy part is too, Vegas is so big and the strip is shut down. So when you're done, you have a long ways to go to get back to wherever you came from. So instead of putting in 26.2 miles that day, I'm sure I put in like, 30 miles probably total.
I remember meeting you at the finish line and then knowing like everyone was back having lunch at our hotel and we were going to go meet him. And I remember telling you like, I've looked and tried to figure it out and there's no good way for us to get back other than to just walk the mile and a half back.
There was no good way. Yeah. I was really grateful that you were there. You were like my like loyal boy, my loyal guy that was like there cheering me on because everyone else was like, we're glad you came up with a reason for us to come to Vegas, but we are not coming out to cheer you on.
Yeah, there was fewer people at the finish line than what I thought there'd be. But.
Too funny.
But Vegas is one of those places, whether you're going for an event like that or you're just going to go, that you can kind of run the gamut as far as options of you can go super cheap. Like Vegas has great deals and lots of people will try to sell you on a trip to Vegas on like, oh, it's so cheap.
Yeah.
Because you can get flights cheap and like the casinos will pair up with airlines to run
great
deals and things like that. And so you really can get a great room and a flight to Vegas for pretty cheap. Mm-hmm. But you can also, like, you can live it up if you want. Like, you can go stay downtown, like Fremont Street and like the Golden Nugget, which is still like nice. It's great. And stay there really cheap and eat there pretty cheap and hang out and do stuff and get $2 Heinekens and things like that. Or you can go to the Wynn.
And break the bank.
Right. And just like pay all of your money to them so that you can stay for 2 days.
Yep.
And you can cram several people in a room.
Yeah.
Like we've done that where it was, the room's full of people, or you can get a penthouse all to yourself and, just live it up.
Yeah.
You can do all you can eat buffets downtown for like $3.99, or you can go have an amazing steak dinner and go see a great show. Getting around Vegas is another way where you can spend a little bit or spend a lot. Like you can ride the Deuce, which is a bus, and I think it's like $2.
And by bus we mean kind of like shuttle bus.
Yeah, it's a shuttle bus, and it's like a double-decker bus that stops at every casino, which sounds like great because then I can go see whichever one I want. Except when the one you want to see is like 8 casinos away and it takes you an hour to get there.
Oh my gosh, it could take forever. And I'll just never forget like that repeating voice.
Have fun, ride the Deuce.
Yep.
$2 one way, $5 all day.
Oh my gosh, you know it.
Yes, I heard it many, many times.
Many times, especially the times we stayed at like the Stratosphere or somewhere that was a little bit further away, and I was like, we should probably, if we walk this, it's gonna be a long night and day.
Oh yeah, just miserable. But one thing that I will say about getting around, like, don't ride the Deuce, just get a cab or something like that, unless you just really, really need to save the money. But from the airport, you can actually get a limo to take you to your hotel, your casino, or wherever it is you're going from the airport for really a pretty reasonable price, especially if you've got 3 or 4 people. What you would pay for a cab, like for just a little bit more, you can actually get a limo. And it's kind of fun. Like, it's cool. We've done that a couple times where you show up and the guy's waiting for you and throws your bags in and you get to show up in style. And, several days later when you're broke and going back to the hotel, you can just take a cab. But when you get there, like, you should take a limo.
Arrive in style. It is so fun. And, like, they'll have champagne for you in the limo and all kinds of stuff. And I remember the first time we did it, it was a Hummer limo.
Yeah.
And it was so legit, right?
Yeah,
It was a Hummer limo, or at the very least, it was like a long limo.
No, it was a Hummer limo.
Hummer limo.
And,
and that was amazing. And then the next time we thought we were getting a limo, and we got like a limo sedan.
Right, it was more of a town car.
Yeah, with my brother Wes and his wife, and we all 4 looked at the car and we were like, "That's not our car." And he was like, "Yep," and we were like,
"You need to grow it a little bit."
And so we crammed in the back seat.
Yeah.
It was like, so I didn't know my limos at the time. Now I know.
Yeah. We do a little better booking.
Right.
But, and you can shop from Gucci to the dollar store.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's
everything
outlets
there.
And all kinds of stuff, yeah.
It's just so, like, it's just crazy. A little bit of everything, and the whole gamut of options are there for you.
Yeah, I do love that. Just like you're saying, you can go really cheap or you can go really expensive.
Yeah.
But everybody can go to Vegas in their own way. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
That's awesome. And there's so many activities for everyone. Like you were talking about shopping. I mean, great shopping. That is the thing I bring money for. Some people bring money for gambling.
You do.
And I bring money for shopping, and oh my goodness. And I also save space in my suitcase, because one of the first times I went with Sarah and Reese Ivan and Faith Hudson, we had an amazing time and we went shopping, and I got so much stuff that I couldn't put it back in my suitcase, basically. And so I was like, oh my gosh. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, I need to remember, I'm gonna love to go shopping, and so I'm gonna bring money for it, and I am going to make sure I have room for it. But yeah, so all that to say, great shopping. People go golfing. That's a big deal whenever you're there. Of course, the gambling, like we were saying, you always have money for gambling. Yeah. What do you do to save up for a trip to Vegas?
So what I do is I save my change like in between. So if I, go to 7-Eleven and buy a Coke and get 87 cents in change back,
Yeah.
like that at the end of every day when I come back, I put it all into a jar.
Mm-hmm.
And that jar just waits and fills until the next time that we go to Vegas. And I take it to a coin machine and cash it all in, and we'll take that to gamble with. Because I like to gamble, like play blackjack, craps, things like that.
Yeah.
Three card poker. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. But I also know that they build the big buildings and they keep the bright lights on, not because they are giving away a lot of money.
Not because you're winning.
Right,
Because
yeah.
they are.
So it's always good to keep in mind when you're going to Vegas to gamble, to view it as entertainment.
Yeah.
And if you happen to win a little bit, great.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
you had a good time.
That's right.
So I limit it that way. But yeah, that's always my plan, is throwing some change in the jar, because one day we're going to go to Vegas.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've always thought that was a really smart approach too. And yeah, there are other things to do. We talked about the rides, Stratosphere, New York, New York. Then there's the Fremont Street experience, which for the people who stay down in like the new part of Vegas, you really want to go ahead and like check out Old Vegas.
Yeah, go downtown.
Because like Fremont Street has a lot of stuff going on, and it is the original Vegas. So
Right.
you don't want to miss out on that. And there's interesting things like the Golden Nugget has a Shark Tank, which is really kind of crazy to see.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's buffets and all kinds of stuff, but there's also a zip line experience where you go zipping down like over Fremont Street, and all
Right.
these lights and casinos and everything around you. Anyway, it's kind of looks really fun. We haven't done that, but that does look fun. And then there's just other random things like this massive M&M store is at Vegas.
You do love the M&M
I
store.
love it. It's like all the colors in the world. You could get ginormous bags full of M&Ms that are like solid pink or whatever you want. Anyway, mix and match all your own M&Ms. It's so crazy. I love that. And then there's the pool scenes,
Yeah.
which we've had some great pool experiences. We got a cabana at New York, New York.
Right, at New York, New York with Wes.
Yeah, with Wes and his wife. And the I'll never forget, like I can totally imagine being there and remember the cabana and everything. And I remember there was a newspaper in the cabana, and this would date us, but the Amy Winehouse had just died.
Yeah.
And I like saw that on like in the newspaper, and I was like, what? Like, and I love Amy Winehouse's music, and so that was like this moment of like, what? And you just kind of remember where you are in that moment. But I was in a cabana at New York, New York, and but that was a good time, and definitely worth getting a cabana somewhere.
Yes.
It's such a cool experience. It's so fun. Just schedule your whole day to be out at the pool, rent a cabana, and just go to town.
It really is like really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went along with it. I was like, yeah, like it'll be a day's activity or whatever. And it's a little pricey, and definitely depending on where you go.
True.
And what all you want included, but you can still do it pretty reasonably, and it's really cool. Like, they come by and check on you. It usually comes with some stuff depending on what level of package you want to buy, but it was great.
Yeah, it really was great. And the ultimate pool experience that I had was at the Flamingo with Sarah and Reese and Faith, and it was insane, so packed. I mean, it was just this crazy experience of like tons of people all day long, and it was a blast. And I don't even think that's certainly not as crazy as it gets in Vegas either, because the Hard Rock Hotel, they have crazy parties. Everybody has crazy parties. It's
And the Palms has that pool way up high, and like
it's so crazy. But anyway, so pool parties, it's a definite scene, and it could be some amazing people watching. You could have a really great time. You will exhaust yourself all day And you might not want to go out at night, so you need to kind of balance that out. But it's like so much fun. I love it. And then, of course, Vegas, their shows.
The shows, yeah.
So good.
It's worth going to Vegas just to see a show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would love to, I've always wanted to take you to Vegas one night, just one night, and, be like, hey, pack your bags. We're going tonight. And go to Vegas and see a show and go out to dinner and go, just go out and just stay up all night long and then go home.
I mean, it would totally be worth it. That, the nice dinners and the shows are really my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
And totally worth just to go see amazing shows and eat great food.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth a trip to Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, some of the shows we've seen, we saw Love, which absolutely, we adored it. I almost started crying. I loved it so much. Ka, which between Ka and Love, those two are maybe my favorites.
Yeah, they
Can't
both
decide.
really, really good and just amazing from the moment they start until you're like, whoa, it's done. Oh, it's been a couple hours. And yeah, I did see stuff that was amazing, but you never look away.
Yeah, you don't even want to blink.
Right. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and yeah, man, oh my goodness, I love those so much. Then we saw Zoomanity, Blue Man Group, and Penn and Teller.
Penn and Teller,
Not the top of the list.
I feel like they got a bad rap from you because we went, I think we had been there a couple nights already. We'd been in Vegas for a little bit, and we had seen, I think we'd seen Love already. And then we went to see Penn and Teller because we wanted to do another show. We loved Love so much. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh, we got to see another show. And so we went and saw Penn and Teller, and it was a little bit slow.
There was not a live music, I will say that.
Yeah, you were less impressed than you had been seeing Cirque du Soleil people flip around and do incredible gymnastics and things like that. And then you saw two middle-aged white guys explaining magic.
Well, one guy talking.
What? Yeah.
And the other guy doesn't even say anything.
Yeah, he's very expressive, though.
Oh, my gosh. It was and I'm sure it's actually a really good show, but we were all really tired, too, at that point. And we were, just to sit down in such a quiet room with such a slow, quiet.
Well, and we had just we were already tired because we'd been there a couple days. We went and ate a big dinner. I think we went to Jimmy Buffett's or something.
We did, yeah.
And we ate a big dinner.
Margaritas.
And had a couple cocktails, and then roll into Penn and Teller, and it's a dark room, well air conditioned. And I remember looking over and seeing and you're just nodding off, you've got the rubberneck action going on where you're just your head's just bobbing up and down trying to stay awake. Good old Penn and Teller.
Oh man.
Yeah, that one. We maybe wanted to have that one back.
That one takes the cake. But you know what? The next show to talk about that I really want to make sure we talk about is I don't even know that we were calling it a show at the time. We didn't know what it was, but it was called Rose Rabbit Lie.
Oh yes, Rose Rabbit Lie
at the Cosmopolitan.
That was such a crazy thing.
So crazy. I can't begin to articulate this, but I'm gonna try. So the story was we were traveling with our friends Jeremy and Casey, whom you've heard us talk about. And this was back March 2014. We all lived in Dallas. Southwest Airlines, thank you Southwest. They started doing the straight flights, direct flights onto Vegas, and so that was super easy. We were in our Shanti mode too, so we were doing insanity and had some legit exercise regimes going on. We were getting ready to go to Vegas, so we were working hard, and we were staying at the Cosmopolitan. And this trip, we were we'd done a lot of different trips where we had tried to be really affordable, but this we were all kind of no, we're doing this. We are
do
gonna
it upright.
Oh man, glam all the way. Like Casey and I were like, where are my eyelashes? Where are my sequins? Where are my heels? Like we did it all. It was amazing.
Yeah,
and
even Jeremy and I were suited and booted every night, like ready to go.
we all got dressed up, and I mean, honestly, that trip, staying in the Cosmopolitan, it's my favorite.
Yeah,
it's
really cool.
So great. And we went out on our last night of our trip, and we've been looking forward to this the whole time. And we went to Rose Rabbit Light. It had just launched a few months before. And it was like marketed as a social experiment, which was really interesting. Like, we didn't know what that meant.
Right.
But it had a real secret appeal to it. And you didn't exactly know what you were going to get into. So there's all this anticipation about the unknown and all the promotions. And I was following it like crazy on Facebook and stuff, like trying to like make sure that like I knew, what this was, and I could not figure it out. And all it showed was 2 closed doors. So you could see the doors where you would be walking through to go see what was behind those doors, but you couldn't see behind the doors until you arrived.
Right.
Which was brilliant marketing from my perspective. I mean, I totally, FOMO. It won me over. And no photos of the inside. But once we got in there, it was really cool. It was like a meal / bar, so like restaurant / bar / variety show.
Yeah.
I guess you could say, all in different rooms, kind of happening everywhere. And we had already eaten dinner in advance because we didn't know enough to know that it was going to be really expensive.
Yep.
I think we paid like Cirque du Soleil prices for
just to get in,
show.
right?
Yeah, just for doors. Yeah, just to get in the door. And I mean, like, expensive menu, like caviar, like
right,
all the things that like I haven't necessarily like felt I needed to pay that much money to like eat in one bite,
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy. And we bought tickets to the late show, even though we didn't really know what the show was. And it was really dark, and the ambiance was so crazy and mysterious. And before you knew it, there were like, it started out with dancers all over the room and music. And people dancing on the bar, and then a rotating stage had new acts coming in and out, and the whole variety show thing, but on a whole different level.
Yes. Yeah, it really was crazy. And I will say, like, this is a really great example of why it's great for me to travel with you, because you saw the marketing for this and you're like, oh, we've got to go do it. And my first reaction was like, we have no idea what it is. Why would we ever why would we ever do it? We have no clue what it is. But it ended up being such just a crazy experience. Like, it was an awesome time. So glad that the 4 of us got to go. Yeah. Really kind of the highlight of that trip.
Yeah, it really was.
And for me, like, I would not have gone had it not been for you wanting to go. So,
well, it's funny you say that too, because I remember a couple days leading up to it, I was at work and I was up on the executive floor talking to some of the executives, and we were just in some meeting, and I was like, at the end of the meeting, somebody's like, so what do you have going on this weekend, And I was like, well, actually, I'm going to Vegas, and I'm so excited because we're going to this place and we don't know what it is. And, the only thing we know is that like there's 2 doors that are going to open and we get to walk through them, and that's all we know. And I started like explaining all of like, the mystery behind this and everything. And our president at the time at work, Bert Marshall, hey Bert, and Michelle Riddell were in the room, and Bert was like, you should not go. Like, he was like, do you realize that sounds really shady? It's just like, I don't think like you might be a little naive for this. I don't know that you want to go there. And and then it did make me start thinking like, yeah, we don't actually have any idea what's about to happen.
Yeah, we were not prepared for anything.
Nope, not prepared for anything. But it was amazing.
Excited to go.
There was like musical performers and dancers and an illusionist, and after they they kind of migrated us all from the restaurant and the bar into another room that was more, I guess you could say, performance ready,
Right.
auditorium style almost. But it was more like you still sat at tables, and but kind of tiered and everything, so you could kind of see people at the bottom that were performing at the bottom of the room. And there was this amazing female performer. She like singing on a loop track, and it was like so good. And then the show ended with this nightclub scene where like we all of the audience got to suddenly be a part of the night.
Right.
And
yeah.
a part of the show in a way. And they just turned the whole room into a dance floor, and everyone got to come down and then dance with the performers. And there was like a marching band that came like through on the
like
dance
a drum
floor.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, drum line. And it was so legit. And the music was like club music, but they had all of these different talented people weaving their way in and out between you while you're dancing to this club music. So cool. And then it was madness. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was definitely worth checking out, and just so interesting. And Vegas has that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of why you go, is because like you're gonna see stuff that you haven't seen before, experience stuff that you haven't, and it's probably gonna be different the next time you go.
I love that about Vegas. I totally agree. And I love that. And what is interesting, and this is kind of a, it's how it is in Vegas, but you got to see a show when you can see it. You don't know when it'll be back.
Right.
Or if it'll, how long it'll last. And in this instance, this place, Rose Rabbit Lie, it shut down in June 2014. They did reopen it later under the hotel's management and ownership, but as of July 2021, it wasn't even open anymore. So
right. And
I'm
I
sure
think it was
COVID,
completely different than.
Yeah, it didn't sound like it was quite the same as what we had experienced. But
yeah.
So it just goes to show that like things are always changing in Vegas, and but also there's probably going to be something new and amazing that is going to replace that. So that's amazing.
Well, and it's just so worth like the shows and the meals that you can have in Vegas.
Oh my goodness.
That's that's why I would recommend not necessarily going like the super cheap route, because you can go find the really cheap stuff to eat. But if you're willing to spend the money, there's some amazing restaurants in Vegas. We've eaten at a Wolfgang Puck restaurant.
Oh, right.
And I think at the MGM. But we also we ate at STK, the steakhouse in the Cosmopolitan.
That was really good.
Was amazing. Even their burger place, Holstein's, at the Cosmopolitan, was really good. Like milkshakes and burgers and things like that, like just phenomenal.
Well, and hard to explain because like when we say milkshakes, we mean like milkshakes and the burger might be on top of the milkshake and like,
right.
I mean, just crazy picturesque stuff that you're like Instagramming. It's so Instagrammable.
Yeah.
Yeah. In there.
And the buffets, we did a few buffets. Like we did the buffet at the MGM Grand. We did the buffet at the Cosmopolitan. And I think we had like the brunch buffet at the Cosmopolitan, but food is so good, and just incredible. And then the placement of the restaurants. Like we went to that sushi spot in Planet Hollywood that overlooked the Strip, but you could also see the Bellagio fountains.
That was really cool.
Yeah, and so you're sitting there eating dinner.
And we had a private room, didn't we?
Well, I think that's how the whole restaurant is set up that way.
Very cool.
So it feels that way. But yeah, like we were, because that was the trip where we stayed at Planet Hollywood, and there was a bunch of us there, and we all went together and overlooked the Strip and the fountains while you eat. The food's so good. And the dining experiences are just incredible there. And even if you're just grabbing lunch, there's so many good places to like people watch in Vegas. Like we went to the that Mexican restaurant at Planet Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they have a patio, and
like a rooftop patio kind of.
Right. And so you're like a level up from the Strip. And then you're out on this patio, and so you're high enough up that people don't see you. Like people aren't walking by looking at you, but you're essentially on the Strip, like looking down. I remember we had lunch and then we just kept ordering drinks so that we could stay there and just people watch. And we sat there for a couple hours and it was hilarious.
That was so
just
funny.
to see like all the different people come by and the way they look and what they're doing and what they're talking about and like all this stuff.
Oh, funny. We could remember, we could hear what them.
Right. Yeah. You could hear what people were saying as they like walked by on the street below you, but they didn't recognize that you were there.
Yeah.
And the people watching, there's just so many different people. It was so fun just to sit out there and have some good food and just watch people.
Yeah, and I mean, you're tired. Vegas, there's a lot of walking involved.
Right.
So you are tired and you are going to want to sit down and rest. And it's amazing to get to do that, and have a good time. So, find a place with a view and do some people watching because it's super entertaining. And there's so many people that work the streets, too. So, whether it's girls or people pushing their clubs and trying to get you to come to one of their nightclubs, or it might be someone, a lot of people in costume just posing for pictures.
Right, get your picture taken with Spider-Man or something.
See them reacting, they try to get people's attention, they take the photo, and then when people walk away, you can see them going.
They just turn it right off.
Yeah, they turn it right off, maybe shake their head and say something bad about whoever just walked up to them. It's pretty entertaining, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's good. That was good stuff. Those are some of my favorite memories, and that was just you and me, right? For most of that time.
I think so, yeah. That was just us. It was a great time.
It was really fun.
And there's the nightlife too.
Yeah, the night scene. Oh my goodness. We have been to a piano bar in New York that there's a bunch of piano bars, but man, the one we went to was a great time in New York. Any piano bar is amazing, is a hoot.
Right.
But the kind of talent that they get in Vegas is truly remarkable. Well, there was a place near Old Vegas called the Downtown Cocktail Room.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved that place. And it was just a kind of a retro looking bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a cocktail bar.
But and you would have looked from the outside, you'd been like, that looks like a small little office.
Right,
space.
skip it.
Yeah, no big deal at all. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. The cocktails were great. We love good cocktails, and the cocktails were really good.
Yep.
And it was close enough to downtown. It was a little cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had just interesting things and absinthe. I remember being like, what? They have absinthe? That's crazy. Just stuff like that was interesting.
Well, and it was super chill in there too.
Mm-hmm.
You almost kind of walk out of Vegas and into this, into its own kind of world.
Mad Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was super chill in there.
It really was.
Great vibes.
Yeah. And I mean, people always talk about the clubs. They are always changing. So the night scene with the clubs and stuff is it's different a lot. It changes all the time. You can watch for celebrity hosts that are there. I personally have never had enough energy to do that. And
you don't want to go see Scott Disick.
I mean, I would go see Scott. Maybe not Paris Hilton, but I would go see Scott Disick. And then it's fun. Everybody gets dressed up, and one of the tips I keep remembering is you being like, you have to bring girls because they will not let you in if you don't have a girl on your arm.
If you're a bunch of dudes showing up to a club, just forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going to pay for table service, pay for bottle service, or you're going to stand outside the whole night.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then some of my favorites that I remember was way back on my first trip to Vegas, going to Studio 54 with the girls, going with Liz and Melissa and Jessica, and I thought that was pretty fabulous. And then we went to the Vault in the Bellagio.
Yeah.
And that was we didn't spend a ton of time there, but we had so much fun.
Well, and great people watching. Do you remember the hand warmer?
Oh yeah.
There was a guy, and he was all over that whole club. Anywhere if you turned around, he was right there. And I remember he had on a white sports coat and a white hat, and I don't think that he was there with anyone, but he was just trying to pick up girls. And his move was like he would rub his hands together, like his hands were cold. Like, and we called him the hand warmer, and just watched him the whole night. Like there would be a group of girls dancing, and he'd warm his hands up and walk over there, and they would all just kind of scatter, and then he would just go break up another group.
And that is now one of our signature moves when we go out to dance.
Gotta get those hands
warm.
We
gotta get the hand warmer out
warm
there.
Them up.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I love it. And yeah, I think I mentioned Aria earlier. We went to the Jewel in Aria, and that was a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's so many, too many to count.
There is. I remember we tried to go to a club in the Wynn. But it was going to end up being a longer wait than really what we wanted to do, and so we were like, we'll just go, we'll go back to the next place, and to kind of keep things keep things
energy
in motion, we're like, well, we'll stop and have shots and it's just the casino bar. I'm like, just give us 4 shots of Fireball.
We were on a Fireball kick at the time,
right? And I knew it's super cheap. And it's an easy shot to do. So, 4 shots of Fireball. And then I remember the guy handed me the tab, and it was $60 for 4 shots of Fireball. And I was like, I could buy 4 bottles of Fireball for $60. And I was just blown away. But the Wynn will get you.
It'll get you.
Everything. It was clear that we were well beyond our depth. Yeah. It's okay, I'm gonna pay this tab, and then I'm gonna leave here.
Yeah, we're done. We all were like, okay,
somewhere
we're
else
done.
where I belong.
Yeah, so funny. It's so funny. I'll never forget. I feel like there was a carousel. Was there a carousel in the middle of?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yes.
The Wynn, and that was really cool. And Casey and I were all blitzed up in our dresses with lots of sequins going on, and I think that was the night Casey was wearing her one shirt, one shoulders dress or something, and so she had this bare arm, cold arm or something. Cold arm case. That's right. So yeah, I remember that. And then I'll never forget. Speaking of the night scene and just how crazy things get at night. We have a lot of stories to tell that we won't, but this one story isn't going to hurt anybody, so I'm going to tell this story. So it's my first trip to Vegas. I'm with all these girls from high school that I just adore. Mm-hmm. And so we were staying at the Stratosphere, but we'd made our way into, I guess you call it uptown, the New Vegas area, and it was Elizabeth Partain, now Elizabeth Wood, Melissa, Jessica. We were all hanging out. We get into this one casino, and it was really quiet. It was kind of maybe more of the shopping part or something, so it's
oh, gotcha.
Imagine a mall with it's clear glass.
It's kind of shut down.
Yeah, it's kind of shut down for the night. You've got some escalators, and we're really just trying to find our way back, and ended up in this area. And so we are going down these escalators, and it's really just us with an eyesight, and then we see these guys, and actually before we even saw these guys, we were being super stupid, and we were sliding down the banister of the escalator, right? Which, you can't actually do because it's rubber. And so we were just acting real stupid. And then these guys come up behind us, and they're like, no, watch this. And so then they really try to slide down the banister, right? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about the rubber gripping that's on the side of the escalator, and it moves with you.
Right.
And it's rubber for a reason. And these guys, this guy goes just tumbling down first try. It wasn't even much of a conversation. It was oh, there are people here. Oh, this guy's sliding down the banister. Oh, he's falling down the escalator. And people, if you stop for a second and think what an escalator looks like.
Yeah.
Every step is basically
just metal teeth.
Metal teeth, well said. Yeah. These metal teeth. And he rolled all the way down these metal teeth stairs and ended up at the bottom. And we were like laughing because we thought it was funny until his head hit the glass at the bottom and there was blood on the glass. And we were like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, like, it wasn't such a, like, fun night. It was like, oh my gosh, did anybody see us? Are we going to get blamed for this? Like, we don't even know this guy. And is he okay? Like, most and first and foremost. And so we talked to them for a minute, and one of us was on our phone calling 911. And before you know it, like, ambulances arrived and stuff like that. But it's crazy. And I still wonder to this day if that guy remembers that or if he just woke up in a hospital with stitches. I don't know. I don't know how present he was, but
Did one of you give him your number?
I don't think so.
Because that's where all of that was headed. And if he didn't even get the number, that's...
It is so sad. But he kind of like, he failed real fast. So it was like, ooh, it's like a fast fail, you know, like, move on. Okay, all right, it's all good. Fast fail. Like, we were never here. No big deal. This never happened. That was really funny.
Yeah, that story for him probably stayed in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, in traveling to Vegas, I mean, gosh, there's just like, there's so many tips. There's so many things that like,
yes,
little quirks about Vegas,
well,
too.
I would say like the number one thing that you just, for whatever reason, can't convince people of in Vegas their first time is that, yes, you can see it. Mm-hmm. And I understand that you can see the sign that says whatever casino you want to see. But no, we cannot walk there because, yes, it is a long ways away from here.
I know.
And no one will believe.
Nobody believes it.
And they're like, no, it's right there. We'll just walk it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, all right. Well, we're going to walk for half an hour, and then we're all going to be sweaty messes when we arrive at this place and in just horrible moods because we've been walking for days.
Yeah, it takes a lot. Even if you've been there, it takes a lot to, you have to like constantly remind yourself, like, that's really far away just because you can see it. I mean, it could be miles and miles away. But yes, the casinos are so big that it feels close.
I remember the first time I went, I actually went with my grandpa, Papa Bo, and my Aunt Lisa, and my cousins, Blake and Ann. And we went, Papa Bo, like, had a thing where the grandkids, he would take 3 at a time to Vegas. And so, like, when they were the youngest of the next 3 turned 21, then you would plan it out and go to Vegas. And we actually drove out there. Yeah, like from Oklahoma. Papa Bo took us out there, taught us how to play blackjack, and we got to see all the casinos. We went in, walked inside all the casinos, and it was really cool and great memories. And my Aunt Lisa has since passed away, and I am really grateful to have had that trip with her, just in that kind of smaller group, and get to go do something like that, and the memory of going with Papa Bo and getting to be there with him. Like, it's something that'll always stay, and really kind of why I like to gamble when I go is I always think of Papa Bo and him teaching us how to play blackjack and that kind of stuff. And it really was special and cool, but we stayed in his timeshare.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so he drove us out there. We stayed in his timeshare and just got to see Vegas.
How was that? What was it like staying in a timeshare?
I mean, the timeshare was great. Like, it because it's kind of like an apartment.
Yeah.
And I've stayed in other timeshares in other places, and they were probably a little more convenient in other places because in Vegas, you're there to be out and you're there to like eat out and that kind of stuff. So things like a kitchen and that are less helpful in Vegas than maybe other places. And it's off the strip, so it may not be like the greatest setup for Vegas, but it was still really nice. And if it's better than not going,
yeah, oh my gosh, for sure,
and better than like a Motel 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
But still, still pretty cool.
That's really cool. And I mean, Papa Beau must have been winning awards for being like the coolest grandpa because
Well, he still is the coolest grandpa. I mean, he's like we went and saw him recently, and he's got a convertible Corvette, and he's 92 years old. He has a black convertible Corvette, and the thing that you do when you hang out with him is smoke cigars. So
he's so
it's
fun.
pretty cool.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
But like other things about Vegas, just to keep in mind, is that like the first night is probably going to zap you, particularly if you're coming from Central USA or the East Coast, because you're losing a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours. So and everything happens so late. Like that first night is going to be a doozy.
Yeah.
And alcohol is really expensive in like clubs and things like that. So just be prepared for that kind of stuff. Maybe like bring something in pregame if you're
like $20-$25 per drink.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like cocktails are $20-$25, beers are $10-$15, for just a domestic, and so it's gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
Like, when you want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But I would say do your research, kind of figure out the stuff that you really want to do, and then budget for it. Just because you don't want to go with the mindset of like, oh, everything in Vegas is cheap, or oh, I'm gonna go win, and then with my winnings I'll pay.
Right.
Like gambling needs to be seen as entertainment and not a source of income. Put yourself on a gambling budget and know, like, I'm taking this much. You're going to have to use cash anyway to play at the tables. So you have to like initially buy your chips with cash.
Okay.
So take your set amount of cash and go, I'm not going to get more cash to gamble with. Like this is my
That's smart.
gambling cash.
Yeah.
And then if you come back with some cash, then hey, like
Good for you.
you're ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy somebody drinks while you're there.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, there is so much more. I mean, endless stories that we have about Vegas, and so much more we could say, but we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, that's probably enough. We would have to start changing the names to protect the guilty if we tell too many more stories.
Exactly. But thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Travel FOMO podcast.
Before we go, we want to hear about your Vegas stories.
Yeah.
What happened to you in Vegas that is too good to leave in Vegas? So post some throwback pictures. Tell us all about it. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. We'll be posting some throwback pictures of our own, and that's where you can keep up with us and what we have going on.
That's right. And go ahead and do us a little favor and rate, review, and subscribe to the Travel FOMO podcast from wherever you're listening. And then you can also learn more about us at travelfomopodcast.com.
Absolutely. And don't forget to come back next week.
That's right.
We will be in New Orleans, where we'll talk about our time there, like such a rich culture, like a city really with kind of its own identity, the food, the music, the atmosphere. We'll talk about all of that. And again, another great place to people watch.
Oh my gosh, it totally is. Yes. But until then, you guys, just remember that life is short.
Wander well.